good evening, and welcome. You've arrived at a quiet crossing point between knowledge and rest, between the vastness of the universe and the softness of sleep. Tonight, you are invited to let go of urgency and follow a story that unfolds at the slowest pace nature allows. The future of our sun. The sun is not merely a bright object above us. It is a living star, a colossal sphere of flowing plasma, bound by gravity and sustained by nuclear fusion. It has warmed every ocean, shaped every climate, and witnessed every moment of life on Earth without ever needing to look back. And yet, like all things in the universe, it is changing, slowly, patiently, inevitably. In this journey, science and imagination will move together. We will speak of real physics and real time, measured in millions and billions of years. But we will let those facts dissolve into something gentle, something calm, something meant to guide you into rest rather than wakefulness. If you enjoy journeys like this, you are welcome to subscribe and support the channel. It helps these long, quiet stories continue to exist for those who need them. Now, allow your body to become still. Dim the lights. Let your breathing slow. You don't need to stay alert. You don't need to remember everything. The journey is about to begin. Before we drift forward into the sun's distant future, we must first settle into what it is right now. The sun of the present moment feels constant, dependable, almost eternal. It rises each morning without effort. It sets each evening without ceremony. It warms the surface of Earth so reliably that we rarely think to thank it. But beneath that familiar glow is ceaseless motion. At the sun's center lies its core, a region so dense and hot that ordinary matter no longer behaves in ordinary ways. Here, temperatures reach more than 15 million degrees Celsius. Under this immense heat and pressure, hydrogen nuclei are forced close enough to overcome their natural repulsion. They fuse. In that fusion, hydrogen becomes helium, and a tiny amount of mass is transformed into energy. This is nuclear fusion, not a flame, not combustion, but a quiet, relentless conversion of matter into light. Every second, the sun converts millions of tons of mass into energy, and yet, from Earth, it appears serene. No flicker, no surge, just steady radiance. This calm appearance hides a profound balance. Gravity presses inward with enormous force, trying to collapse the sun into itself. At the same time, energy from fusion pushes outward, resisting that collapse. The sun exists precisely where these two forces meet and agree. This balance is called hydrostatic equilibrium, but you can think of it as a quiet breath held for billions of years. The energy born in the core does not rush outward. A photon of light may take tens of thousands of years to escape the sun, bouncing endlessly between particles in the dense interior. The sunlight that warmed your skin today began its journey long before human history began. It is ancient light, arriving gently, without revealing how long it has traveled. Surrounding the core is the radiative zone, where energy moves slowly outward through endless collisions. Beyond that lies the convective zone, where hot plasma rises, cools, and sinks again in vast rolling currents. If you could see it safely, the sun would appear to boil, not violently, but rhythmically, like a slow golden ocean. At the surface, the photosphere glows at about 5,500 degrees Celsius. Above it, the chromosphere shimmers faintly, and above that, the corona stretches far into space, mysteriously hotter than the layers below, shaped and sculpted by magnetic fields that twist and reconnect like luminous threads. The sun is alive with motion, yet stable enough to feel eternal, but it is not eternal. The sun is about 4.6 billion years old, middle-aged by stellar standards. It was born from a collapsing cloud of gas and dust, a region of the galaxy where gravity gathered matter slowly, patiently, until fusion ignited and a star was born. In its youth, the sun was dimmer than it is now. Over time, as fusion reshaped its core, it brightened. This brightening is not dramatic. It is not something that announces itself. It is a whisper of change spread across billions of years. And yet, it is the first step in the sun's future. Right now, the sun still has abundant hydrogen in its core. Fusion proceeds steadily. The balance holds. From the perspective of a human life, the sun will seem unchanged forever. Tomorrow's sunrise will look like today's. Next year's warmth will feel familiar. And that familiarity is deeply comforting. As you lie here now, breathing slowly, let yourself feel the steadiness of the sun as it is today, a stable heart at the center of your solar system, a reliable presence that has shaped every day you've ever known. This is where the journey begins. Not with endings, not with destruction, but with stability, with balance, with quiet endurance. Rest here for a moment, inside the present sun, before time begins to move again. Time, in the universe, does not behave the way it does in your daily life. It does not hurry. It does not count minutes or mark appointments. It unfolds in long, smooth curves, measured in millions and billions of years, moving so slowly that change becomes almost invisible. And it is within this deep, patient time that the future of the sun quietly begins. As the sun continues its steady shining, something subtle is always happening at its core. With every fusion reaction, hydrogen is transformed into helium. This helium does not vanish. It accumulates, forming a growing concentration of heavier material at the center of the star. Gravity responds to this gradual change. The core contracts slightly, becoming denser and hotter, even as the sun as a whole appears calm and unchanged from afar. This gentle contraction has consequences. A hotter core allows fusion to proceed more efficiently. More energy is produced. The sun's luminosity increases, not suddenly, not noticeably from one year to the next, but steadily, inevitably. Over the course of 1 billion years, the sun becomes significantly brighter than it once was. For Earth, the slow brightening is like a whisper that takes eons to be heard. At first, nothing seems different. Oceans still move with familiar tides. Seasons still return in their accustomed rhythm. Life continues, adapting quietly, generation after generation, unaware that the balance sustaining it is slowly shifting. As sunlight grows more intense, Earth begins to warm, not in sharp jumps, but in long trends. Ice retreats from the poles. Snow lines climb higher up mountains. The planet absorbs more energy than it releases, and the atmosphere responds. Water evaporates more readily from the oceans, adding moisture to the air. This water vapor traps heat, strengthening the greenhouse effect and amplifying the warming already underway. This process feeds itself gently, but persistently. More heat leads to more vapor. More vapor leads to more heat. Over immense spans of time, the climate settles into a new state, warmer, wetter, more energetic. Storm systems shift, rainfall patterns change. The Earth begins to feel different, even though no single moment marks the transition. Yet life does not disappear all at once. Life is remarkably resilient, especially when given time. Plants adapt to warmer conditions. Ecosystems rearrange themselves. Species migrate, evolve, or fade away slowly, leaving space for others. The future Earth under a brighter sun is not immediately barren. It is simply altered, reshaped by energy that arrives a little more strongly each passing millennium. As carbon dioxide is drawn down through weathering and chemical processes, plants that rely on it struggle. Forests thin. Vast green expanses become rarer. The biosphere simplifies. Complex, delicate systems give way to hardier forms of life that can tolerate heat and scarcity. The planet grows quieter, its surface less busy, its rhythms slower. High above this changing world, the sun remains indifferent, continuing its internal transformations, without awareness or intent. It does not react to planets. It does not respond to life. It simply follows the laws of physics, converting matter into light with unwavering consistency. As hydrogen continues to disappear from the core, the structure of the sun prepares for a deeper change. Fusion begins to shift away from the center, forming a shell around the growing helium core. This is not yet dramatic, but it marks the beginning of a new phase. The sun's balance, once centered, starts to reorganize itself. Gravity tightens its grip on the helium core, compressing it further. Temperature rises, pressure increases. The outer layers of the sun respond by expanding ever so slightly. From a distance, the sun appears subtly larger, subtly brighter. From within, it is rearranging its future. All of this unfolds over spans of time, so long that they soften the very idea of urgency. Nothing is demanded quickly. Nothing happens suddenly. The sun changes the way mountains erode and continents drift. Through patience. As you rest now, breathing slow and deep, let this immense time scale ease your own sense of time. There is no need to rush, no need to resolve anything tonight. Just as the sun takes billions of years to change, you are allowed to take this moment to simply be. The future is turning, gently, quietly, whether you watch it or not. As the sun continues its slow brightening, the changes on Earth deepen, not as events, but as long transitions that stretch across ages. There is no single year when the planet suddenly feels different. Instead, there is a gradual reshaping, so gentle that it feels like a dream unfolding while no one is fully awake to notice. The oceans, which once absorbed sunlight and reflected clouds like mirrors of blue and white, begin to respond more actively to the increased energy. Surface waters warm, evaporation accelerates, the sky grows heavier with moisture, and clouds become thicker, more persistent, lingering longer before releasing their rain. The planet breathes more deeply now, drawing water upward and letting it fall again in slow global rhythms. Water vapor, invisible and abundant, traps heat efficiently. This amplifies the sun's growing brightness, creating a feedback loop that unfolds over millions of years. The Earth does not overheat suddenly. It settles into a warmer equilibrium, one that feels stable on short time scales, but is fundamentally different from the world that once supported forests, ice sheets, and sprawling ecosystems. As temperatures rise, the chemistry of the atmosphere begins to change. Carbon dioxide, once abundant enough to sustain vast plant life, is gradually drawn down through weathering. Rain falls on exposed rock, reacting with minerals and locking carbon away in stone. This is one of the planet's oldest balancing mechanisms, slow and powerful, but under a brighter sun, it becomes too effective. The atmosphere loses one of its essential supports for complex plant life. Photosynthesis becomes more difficult. Plants struggle to capture enough carbon to survive. Forests thin, then retreat. Grasslands fade. The land becomes quieter, its colors shifting toward browns and muted tones. Life does not vanish in panic. It withdraws in stages, leaving behind only what can endure heat, scarcity, and simplicity. Microbial life persists the longest. Simple organisms adapt to conditions that would feel unbearable to complex creatures. They live in soil, in water, in places sheltered from the most intense heat. They continue their slow cycles, barely changed from forms that existed billions of years earlier. Reminders that life does not need abundance to continue, only time. Above it all, the sun grows subtly larger. Its outer layers expand as the fusion reactions shift away from the core. The star's light becomes more intense, but also softer in color, tinged faintly with warmth that leans toward gold and red. The sun's presence in the sky feels heavier, more dominant, filling space with energy that can no longer be ignored. Eventually, Earth's oceans begin to thin, not drained all at once, but steadily lost to the sky and beyond. Ultraviolet radiation breaks apart water molecules in the upper atmosphere. Hydrogen escapes into space, light and unbound. Oxygen remains behind, altering the atmosphere further, but without water, it is no longer the companion of life. The seas that once cradled biology become shallow, then fragmented, then memories written into dry basins and salt-stained stone. The planet enters a long twilight, not frozen, not burning, simply quiet. A world still orbiting faithfully, still responding to gravity and sunlight, but no longer hosting the complexity it once did. Earth becomes a place of geological motion, rather than biological abundance. Its story continuing without witnesses. The sun does not pause. Deep within, its helium core grows larger, denser, more compressed. Hydrogen fusion in the surrounding shell intensifies, producing even more energy. The outer layers of the sun respond by expanding further, loosening their hold under gravity's pull. This expansion marks the sun's slow approach toward a new identity. It is no longer just a stable main sequence star. It is preparing to become something else entirely. As you rest now, let the image of Earth growing quieter bring a strange sense of peace. Silence in the universe is not failure. It is simply another state of being. Worlds are allowed to change. Stars are allowed to age. Nothing is required to remain the same forever. Your own night mirrors this cosmic quiet. Thoughts thin, sensations soften, awareness drifts inward. You are not fading. You are resting, just as planets rest in their orbits and stars rest between transformations. The sun continues its slow expansion, carrying the future forward without urgency. Far beyond the last echoes of Earth's oceans, the sun enters a phase of life that feels both dramatic and deeply patient. It is no longer the compact, steady star it once was. Inside, the balance that held it stable for billions of years has shifted, and now gravity and energy negotiate a new agreement. With hydrogen exhausted in the core, fusion has fully migrated into a surrounding shell. This shell burns brighter and hotter than the core ever did, releasing vast amounts of energy outward. The helium core, no longer producing energy of its own, contracts under gravity's relentless pull. As it compresses, it heats further, becoming denser, heavier, more intense. The outer layers of the sun respond to this internal change. By expanding outward, the star grows in size, swelling gradually, but dramatically over millions of years. From afar, the sun becomes a red giant, its surface cooling as it spreads over a much larger area. Its color shifts toward deep gold and soft red, a luminous warmth that fills the inner solar system. This expansion is not smooth or perfectly even. The sun begins to pulse gently. Its outer layers rise and fall in slow rhythmic waves, driven by internal instabilities. Each pulse carries energy outward, like a deep breath taken by something vast and ancient. The sun is no longer simply shining. It is expressing its age. As the sun expands, its gravitational hold on the inner solar system weakens slightly. Mass is lost through intensified stellar winds, streams of charged particles flowing outward into space. Mercury is the first to feel the sun's closeness, its orbit destabilized, its surface heated beyond recognition. Eventually, it is swallowed, dissolving into the sun's outer atmosphere. Venus follows. Once a world of thick clouds and crushing heat, it too is drawn into the expanding star. Its materials mix with the sun's outer layers, adding trace elements to the star's composition. These losses do not trouble the sun. Planets are small things compared to the scale of a star's evolution. Earth's fate is more uncertain. As the sun loses mass, Earth's orbit may drift outward, moving just fast enough to avoid immediate engulfment. But even if Earth escapes being swallowed whole, it cannot escape transformation. The intense heat from the sun's expanded surface strips away any remaining atmosphere. The surface melts, Rocks glow faintly. The planet becomes a scorched remnant, orbiting a star that fills much of its sky. The sun, now vast and luminous, dominates its surroundings. If anyone could observe it from afar, they would see a star in transition, one that has left its long stability behind and entered a shorter, more expressive phase of life. Its radius may extend hundreds of times beyond its original size. Its brightness increases dramatically, even as its surface cools. Deep inside, the helium core continues to contract, reaching temperatures high enough to approach a new threshold. The sun is gathering itself for another transformation, one that will occur suddenly in physical terms, yet invisibly to the outside. As you listen, let this immense expansion feel less like danger and more like release. The sun is letting go of what it once was, stretching outward, redistributing its energy, preparing for renewal at its core. Your own body mirrors this in a quieter way. Muscles loosen, breath deepens. The boundaries of your awareness soften. You are expanding inward, releasing the tightness of the day, allowing rest to take more space. The universe does not resist change. It leans into it, slowly, gracefully. The sun's core grows hotter still, approaching the moment when helium itself will begin to burn. Deep within the vast, expanded body of the red giant sun, something rare and profound is about to happen. From the outside, there is no sign of urgency. The star continues to glow with a soft, swollen brilliance, its outer layers drifting and pulsing in slow, luminous waves. But far beneath that calm surface, at the very heart of the sun, pressure and temperature are rising toward a long-awaited threshold. The core is now composed almost entirely of helium. It is small compared to the immense envelope surrounding it, yet unimaginably dense. Gravity has been compressing it for millions of years, forcing atoms closer and closer together. The temperature climbs past 100 million degrees. In stars more massive than the sun, this process unfolds gradually, but for a star of the sun's size, the physics behaves differently, guided by the strange rules of quantum mechanics. The helium core is supported not by heat, but by a quantum pressure known as electron degeneracy. In this state, matter resists compression, not because of temperature, but because of the limits imposed by the nature of electrons themselves. As a result, when the temperature becomes high enough for helium fusion to begin, the core does not expand immediately to regulate itself. Instead, fusion ignites rapidly. This event is called the helium flash. Despite its dramatic name, it is not an explosion. Nothing shatters. Nothing is torn apart. The energy released is enormous, greater than the combined output of many galaxies, but it is absorbed internally, used to lift the degeneracy of the core and restore a more familiar balance between pressure and gravity. From the outside, the sun shows almost no sign that anything extraordinary has occurred. Inside, however, everything has changed. Helium nuclei begin to fuse, forming carbon and oxygen. A new kind of fire burns at the sun's center, quieter and shorter-lived than the hydrogen fusion that sustained it for billions of years, but no less significant. The core expands slightly. The surrounding shell of hydrogen fusion weakens. The outer layers of the sun respond by contracting. The red giant shrinks. Over time, the sun settles into a new, more compact form, though it remains far larger and brighter than it was in its youth. This phase is known as the horizontal branch, a second equilibrium, a kind of late-life stability. The sun now burns helium in its core and hydrogen in a surrounding shell, balanced once again, though the balance will not last as long as before. The light of the sun during this era is steadier than during its red giant expansion. Its color shifts subtly, less deep red, more golden. If there were worlds nearby capable of observing it, they would see a star that seems calmer again, as though it has found peace after a long and expressive outburst. But by now, the inner solar system is unrecognizable. Any surviving planets are stripped and silent, their surfaces reshaped by heat and radiation. The sun shines without witnesses, except perhaps distant eyes in the galaxy, watching one more star pass through a universal pattern. Helium fusion continues for millions of years, far shorter than the sun's long hydrogen-burning life. Carbon and oxygen accumulate in the core, forming the future heart of what the sun will one day become. The supply of helium, like all fuel, is finite. Slowly, inevitably, it begins to run out. As the helium dwindles, the sun once again feels imbalance approaching. Fusion in the core weakens. Gravity prepares to tighten its grip. The cycle that has guided the sun since its birth continues, not with repetition, but with progression, each stage building upon the last. As you rest now, let this moment of quiet ignition feel gentle rather than dramatic. Even great transformations can occur without noise, without disruption. The most powerful changes often happen deep within, unseen, altering everything that follows. Your own night carries the same quality. Beneath stillness, restoration is taking place. Beneath silence, something new is being prepared. You do not need to witness it. You do not need to understand it. It unfolds naturally, just as helium begins to burn when the conditions are right. The sun has entered a new chapter of its life. Calm on the surface, transformed at the core. For a time, the sun exists in a fragile calm. Helium burns steadily in its core, forming carbon and oxygen, while a surrounding shell of hydrogen continues its quieter fusion. From a distance, the star appears composed again, as if it has settled into acceptance. After immense change, this phase is shorter than all that came before, but it is still measured in millions of years, long enough for stillness to feel permanent. Inside the core, carbon and oxygen slowly accumulate, the ash of helium fusion. Unlike hydrogen and helium, these heavier elements do not fuse easily in a star the size of the sun. The temperatures required are simply too high, and so, once again, fuel becomes residue, and residue becomes weight. As helium is consumed, the core begins to lose its internal source of energy. Fusion weakens. Gravity, patient and inevitable, resumes its quiet dominance. The carbon-oxygen core contracts, becoming denser and hotter, while helium fusion migrates outward into a surrounding shell. Above that, hydrogen continues to burn in an even farther shell. The sun now burns in layers, like a nested series of slow glowing rings. This layered burning destabilizes the star. The sun begins to swell again, entering the asymptotic giant branch, a late and expressive stage of stellar life. Its radius increases dramatically. Its outer atmosphere becomes tenuous and extended, only loosely bound by gravity. The surface cools further, glowing deep orange and red, while the total luminosity of the sun rises to many thousands of times what it once was. The star no longer feels restrained. It pulses strongly now. Each pulse is a deep stellar breath, driven by instabilities between gravity and fusion. The sun expands, contracts, and expands again, shedding matter with every cycle. Vast amounts of gas are lifted from the surface and carried outward into space by powerful stellar winds. Atoms that once lived deep inside the sun are now released into the galaxy. Carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, elements essential to life, are set free, drifting away in slow, glowing currents. The sun is no longer just a source of light. It has become a giver of substance, enriching the space around it with the material needed for future stars and planets. From afar, the sun would appear surrounded by a thick, dusty envelope, glowing softly in infrared light. Its shape is no longer perfectly spherical. It becomes irregular, textured, almost fragile in appearance. This is not decay. It is transformation through release. The mass loss accelerates. With each pulse, more of the sun's outer layers escape. gravity weakens further. The star's hold on itself loosens. The core, now almost entirely carbon and oxygen, grows increasingly isolated, wrapped in thinning layers that cannot remain bound forever. This phase does not last long in cosmic terms. A few 100,000 years, perhaps 1,000,000, and then, gradually, inevitably, the sun reaches the moment when it can no longer hold its outer atmosphere at all. The surrounding shells drift away, forming a vast expanding cloud. What remains at the center is suddenly exposed. A small, incredibly hot core, no longer hidden beneath layers of glowing gas. Its radiation floods outward, illuminating the material that was once part of the star itself. A planetary nebula is born. This nebula is not violent. It expands gently, like breath released into cold air. Its colors are vivid: greens, blues, reds, created as ultraviolet light, excites the drifting gas. For a brief moment in the life of the galaxy, the sun's final transformation becomes something astonishingly beautiful. And yet, even this beauty is temporary. As you rest now, let the idea of release feel comforting rather than sad. The sun is not losing itself. It is becoming diffuse, sharing what it has made, allowing its story to continue in countless other forms. Your own body understands this rhythm. Letting go does not mean disappearing. It means making space. Muscles soften, breath deepens, awareness thins, spreading gently rather than focusing tightly. The sun has reached the edge of its visible life. At its center, something small and enduring remains, preparing to enter a far quieter existence. When the sun releases its outer layers, it does so without violence, without resistance. The great cloud of gas that once belonged to it drifts outward, thinning as it expands, glowing briefly under the intense radiation of the exposed core. This glowing shell, the planetary nebula, marks a moment of transition, a farewell written in light. But it is not the sun itself. It is what the sun has let go of. At the center of this expanding veil remains something very small, very dense, and very calm. The core of the sun, now stripped of its atmosphere, is revealed as a white dwarf. It is roughly the size of Earth, yet it contains nearly half the sun's original mass. Matter here is packed so tightly that a spoonful would weigh many tons. Atoms are crushed close together, electrons forced into states that prevent further collapse. This strange balance is held by quantum mechanics rather than heat, a quiet resistance born from the nature of matter itself. There is no fusion in the white dwarf. The nuclear fire that defined the sun's long life has gone out. What remains is heat, immense, stored heat, left over from billions of years of burning. At first, the white dwarf shines brilliantly, its surface temperature soaring above 100,000 degrees. It glows white-blue, sharp and intense, illuminating the last traces of the nebula as it drifts away. But this brightness is deceptive. It is not a flame. It is a memory, with no new energy being created. The white dwarf begins a journey of cooling that will last longer than anything else in the sun's story. Millions of years pass, then billions. The white dwarf slowly radiates its heat into space, growing dimmer, redder, quieter. There are no sudden changes, no final moment, just an endless, gradual fading. Planets that may still orbit this remnant do so in silence. There is no warmth to shape climates, no light to stir chemistry. Orbits continue, faithful and indifferent, tracing paths through darkness around a star that is no longer a star in the way it once was. Yet even now, the sun has not truly ended. The white dwarf remains a gravitational presence, curving space around it, influencing whatever passes nearby. It carries within it the carbon and oxygen forged during its earlier life, elements that were once created in fire and now rest in crystalline stillness. In time, the interior of the white dwarf may even crystallize, its atoms settling into an ordered lattice, like a cosmic gemstone cooling in the dark. This crystallization releases a final, subtle warmth, extending the cooling process even further. The sun's heart resists complete darkness with extraordinary patience. It does not hurry toward silence. It lingers. Trillions of years may pass before the white dwarf becomes a black dwarf, a theoretical object so cold and dim that it emits almost no light at all. The universe itself may not yet be old enough for such objects to exist. Time, once again, stretches beyond imagination. As you lie here now, resting in the present, this vast future carries a strange comfort. The sun's end is not an explosion, not a collapse into nothingness, but a long, gentle dimming, a transition from activity to stillness, from brilliance to quiet presence. Your own body mirrors this rhythm tonight. Activity gives way to rest. Effort gives way to softness. Nothing is being lost. Energy is simply being redistributed, allowed to settle where it needs to go. The sun, once a roaring sphere of fusion, now exists as a quiet heart in the dark, holding the history of an entire solar system within itself. And in that quiet endurance, there is no tragedy, only completion. Time continues to flow, but more slowly now, as if even the universe is beginning to rest. Long after the sun has settled into its quiet white dwarf state, long after the last glow of its planetary nebula has thinned and dissolved into the dark between stars, the solar system enters an era defined not by light, but by motion without warmth. This is the deep future, where activity fades and patience becomes the dominant force of the universe. The white dwarf sun continues to cool, almost imperceptibly. Each passing billion years removes only a small fraction of its remaining heat. It shines faintly now, a dim ember suspended in space, no longer capable of nurturing worlds, yet still holding itself together with extraordinary density. Around it, any remaining planets orbit in darkness, guided only by gravity, tracing paths that feel more like habit than purpose. Without the sun's radiant energy, the solar system becomes a cold architecture of stone, ice, and empty space. Surfaces freeze solid. Atomic motion slows. Chemical reactions that once powered atmospheres and oceans come to a near standstill. The dynamic system that once felt alive grows still, not broken, but finished with its most expressive phase. Over vast stretches of time, even orbits are not perfectly stable. Gravitational interactions with passing stars, with the tidal pull of the galaxy itself, slowly reshape trajectories. Some planets may be nudged outward, drifting farther from the white dwarf. Others may spiral inward, eventually merging with the dense remnant, their matter added quietly to its mass. There is no impact as we imagine it, only absorption, like dust settling onto a stone. Beyond the boundaries of the solar system, the Milky Way itself is changing. Star formation slows as clouds of gas are used up or dispersed. Bright, massive stars live fast and die early, leaving behind neutron stars and black holes. Over time, the galaxy becomes dominated by long-lived faint objects, red dwarfs, white dwarfs, stellar remnants moving through widening darkness. The night sky of this far future would look unfamiliar. Fewer stars shine. The bright patterns once used for navigation and myth have faded. The universe feels larger now, emptier, stretched thin by expansion. And yet, it is not lifeless. It is simply quieter, more subtle in how it expresses itself. The white dwarf that was once our sun continues its patient cooling. Deep within it, the carbon-oxygen core may crystallize almost completely, becoming a rigid lattice of matter locked in place. This process releases tiny amounts of energy, extending the dwarf's faint glow for trillions of years. The sun resists darkness, not with effort, but with persistence. Eventually, after time scales so long they dissolve, meaning itself. The white dwarf will cool to near the temperature of the surrounding universe. It will become a black dwarf in all but name, dark, cold, nearly invisible. By then, the universe itself will be profoundly aged. Expansion will have carried galaxies far apart. Encounters between stars will be rare. Motion will slow everywhere. This is not an ending filled with drama. It is a long settling, a cosmic exhale. As you rest now, this vision of the deep future does not need to feel lonely. Instead, it can feel spacious, peaceful. There is something deeply calming about knowing that even the most energetic things eventually come to rest, that even stars are allowed to sleep. Your own night mirrors this deep future in a gentler way. Thoughts drift farther apart, sensations grow faint, awareness loosens its grip on detail. You are not disappearing, you are simply entering a quieter state, one where nothing needs to happen. The sun's journey teaches that rest is not failure, silence is not absence, stillness is simply another form of balance. Let that idea settle into you now. Like warmth spreading through stone, you are allowed to slow, you are allowed to fade into sleep without explanation. The universe will continue, patiently, whether watched or not, beyond the deep future of the sun, beyond the quiet cooling of its white dwarf heart. There is an even slower chapter waiting. This is a time not defined by stars or planets, but by the behavior of time itself. The universe, having spent its energy generously for trillions of years, begins to change the way it moves, the way it remembers motion at all. In this era, the white dwarf that was once the sun is no longer special. It is one faint object among countless others, drifting through an expanded, diluted cosmos. The distances between stars and remnants have grown enormous. Galaxies, once close enough to interact and collide, are now carried apart by the steady expansion of space itself. Light from distant regions can no longer reach others. Islands of matter become isolated, each alone in its own observable bubble. The Milky Way still exists, but it is quieter than it has ever been. Star formation has nearly ceased. The clouds of gas that once birthed brilliant suns have long since been consumed or dispersed. What remains is a population of old stars and stellar remnants, red dwarfs burning slowly, white dwarfs cooling patiently, neutron stars and black holes silently curving space around them. Red dwarf stars, the smallest and longest-lived of all, continue to shine for trillions of years. Compared to them, the sun was brief. These stars glow faintly, steadily, conserving their fuel with extraordinary efficiency. Around some of them, worlds may still exist, dimly warmed by weak, persistent light. If any life endures this far into the future, it does so slowly, adapted to scarcity, attuned to long cycles and minimal change. Eventually, even these red dwarfs exhaust their hydrogen. One by one, they fade into white dwarfs of their own. Adding to the growing population of stellar embers, the universe becomes a place dominated by remnants, objects that no longer shine through fusion, but still exist through mass, gravity, and memory. Time stretches further. As epochs pass, gravitational interactions continue their quiet work. Orbits decay. Encounters, though rare, still occur. Stars and remnants pass near one another, exchanging energy. Some are flung outward into intergalactic space. Others fall inward, drawn toward massive centers. Black holes grow slowly through mergers, becoming the last truly dynamic objects in a cooling universe. Even black holes are not eternal. Through a process known as Hawking radiation, they very slowly lose mass, emitting faint energy over unimaginable timescales. A black hole, the mass of the sun, would take far longer than the current age of the universe to evaporate. Supermassive black holes would last even longer. But eventually, after times measured in numbers too large to hold in thought, they too fade away. This is the farthest horizon of physics we can currently imagine. A universe approaching heat death, a state where energy differences have evened out, where no significant gradients remain to drive change. No stars ignite, no worlds warm. Motion continues, but without direction or drama. And yet, even this vision carries a strange calm. Nothing collapses into chaos. Nothing shatters. The universe does not end with noise or fury. It simply relaxes, settling into uniformity, like a surface of water after all ripples have faded. Time does not stop, but it loses urgency. Events still occur, but they are so rare, so spread out, that they barely register as events at all. As you listen, let this immense slowing ease your own sense of motion. You do not need to be moving forward right now. You do not need to be becoming anything. Just as the universe eventually reaches a state where change is no longer required, you are allowed, in this moment, to rest without purpose. Your thoughts may feel distant now, softened by scale. Concerns that once felt sharp lose their edges when placed against trillions of years. This does not make them meaningless. It simply makes them lighter, easier to hold, easier to release. The future of the sun leads us here, not to frighten us, but to show us something gentle, that rest is woven into the structure of reality itself, that even the universe is not expected to remain energetic forever. It is allowed to wind down, to grow quiet, to be still. Your body already knows how to do this. Sleep is your own small version of cosmic rest, a temporary surrender of activity, a return to balance. Nothing is lost in sleep. Energy is conserved, systems repair themselves, awareness loosens, and then returns when it is needed again. As the universe drifts toward its longest night, you drift toward yours. And here, in this deep calm, there is no need to go further, unless you wish to. The future stretches on, without demand. You can let it exist, without following it. Even as the universe grows older and quieter, even as stars fade and motion slows, something subtle continues to exist everywhere: the memory of light. Light does not linger as an object, but as an imprint, a history written into matter, into space, into the very structure of reality. Long after the sun has ceased to shine, its influence remains scattered throughout the cosmos. The atoms that once formed the sun are no longer gathered in one place. Carbon forged in its core, oxygen born from helium fire, nitrogen shaped by fusion and pressure. All of these elements have drifted outward, mixed into clouds, stars, and worlds far from their origin. Somewhere, perhaps unimaginably distant in space and time, those atoms may be part of something new. A faint star, a drifting planet, a quiet structure of matter assembling itself under gravity's slow guidance. This is how the universe remembers, not through consciousness, but through continuity. Nothing that happens is ever fully erased. It is transformed, redistributed, softened, but always carried forward. The sun's light warmed oceans that shaped life. That life altered a planet. That planet released gases into space. Space absorbed them, rearranged them, and passed them on. Cause flows into effect, endlessly, without judgment. In the deep future, where stars are scarce and darkness dominates, this continuity becomes the universe's quiet heartbeat. Motion still exists, even if it is almost imperceptible. Particles drift, fields fluctuate, space itself continues to expand, stretching distances, thinning interactions, smoothing differences. The universe is not frozen, it is simply resting. If there were observers in this distant era, their experience of time would be profoundly different. Moments would feel vast. Change would feel rare. Patience would not be a virtue. It would be a necessity, built into existence itself. Awareness, if it existed at all, would have to be slow, gentle, unhurried, shaped by a cosmos that no longer rushes toward anything. And here, in your own quiet night, You are practicing the same skill without effort. Your breathing is slow now, perhaps barely noticeable. The space between thoughts has widened. Sensations have softened into background warmth or coolness. You are not tracking the story anymore. You are resting inside it. This is exactly as it should be. The sun's future teaches that brightness is only one phase of existence. Silence is not emptiness. Darkness is not absence. It is simply another arrangement of energy, another way for reality to be. The universe does not grieve the loss of stars. It incorporates their endings into its broader calm. There is a deep kindness in that. Nothing is required to shine forever. Nothing is required to remain active, to remain meaningful. Even a cooling white dwarf, even a darkened remnant drifting through space, still belongs completely to the universe, still participates in gravity, in structure, in the slow story of everything. As you rest, let this understanding settle gently within you. You do not need to be productive tonight. You do not need to solve or improve anything. Like the sun, long after its brightest days, you are allowed to simply exist, quietly, without demand. Thoughts may come, but they do not need to stay. They can pass like faint reflections, like distant starlight crossing empty space. If they dissolve before forming fully, that is not a loss. It is rest asserting itself. Somewhere far beyond imagination, the universe continues to expand, cool and simplify. Somewhere much closer, here in this moment, your mind does the same. Complexity gives way to ease. Effort gives way to stillness. The memory of light remains, even when light itself is gone. And so, wrapped in that gentle truth, you continue drifting toward deeper rest, toward quiet awareness, toward sleep that asks nothing and offers everything. As the future stretches farther still, the story of the sun dissolves into something broader and more intimate at the same time. No longer a single star, no longer even a remnant, its existence becomes inseparable from the wider universe that carried it from birth to rest. This is the stage where individual histories soften and blend, where everything belongs not to itself, but to the whole. The atoms that once formed the sun are now everywhere and nowhere. They drift through interstellar space, pass through clouds of dust, skim the edges of distant systems. Some remain isolated for eons, traveling alone through darkness. Others eventually gather again, nudged by gravity into new configurations. In this way, the sun's matter becomes anonymous, free from identity, yet endlessly useful to what comes next. This is one of the universe's deepest patterns. Nothing truly stands apart. Stars are born from shared material. They live distinct lives for a time, and then they return what they have made, dissolving back into the larger flow. Individuality is temporary. Belonging is permanent. In the deep future, the universe feels less like a place of events and more like a condition. Space is wide, quiet, evenly cooled. Time passes without milestones. There are no dramatic transitions left, only continuity. Gravity still operates. Particles still exist. But everything happens at a pace so slow that urgency has completely vanished. This vast patience can feel comforting rather than empty. There is no pressure to become anything, no expectation of progress. The universe has reached a stage where simply continuing is enough. And in that sense, it mirrors the state your mind is entering now. As you rest, you may feel less separate from your surroundings. The boundary between your body and the room, between sound and silence, grows soft. You are not dissolving, you are blending. Just as the sun eventually blended back into the galaxy, you are blending into rest, into stillness, into sleep. Belonging does not require effort. It is not earned. It is simply the default condition of existence. You belong to this night. You belong to this moment. You belong to the long, patient universe that does not rush you or judge you or ask you to be anything other than what you are right now. In this understanding, Even the idea of a future loses its sharpness. Tomorrow exists, but it does not need your attention yet. The far future exists, but it carries no threat. Time becomes a wide, calm ocean rather than a narrow path. You float rather than walk. The sun's story, which once seemed so vast and distant, now feels like a quiet reassurance. It shows that nothing needs to last forever to be complete. That change does not erase meaning. That rest is not a failure of motion, but its natural conclusion. Let that reassurance settle into you. Your body has been holding you all day. Your mind has been carrying thoughts, decisions, impressions. Now both are allowed to set those things down. The night receives them without question. Sleep opens gently, like a door that does not need to be pushed. There is nothing left to understand, nothing left to prepare for. Only this sense of being carried by gravity, by time, by a universe that has been practicing patience for billions of years. Stay here in this feeling of belonging. In the deepest reaches of time, direction itself begins to lose meaning. The universe no longer feels like it is going somewhere. It is not building, not striving, not unfolding toward a goal. It is simply existing, moment by moment, vast and unhurried. This is not stagnation. It is completion settling into comfort. The sun's story has fully dissolved into this state. There is no longer a center to return to, no bright origin to point toward. What was once a star has become part of the background fabric of the cosmos, indistinguishable from countless other histories that have followed the same gentle arc from ignition to rest. In this era, identity is diffuse. Everything belongs everywhere, in small, scattered ways. Matter drifts freely now. Atoms move through space without destination, guided only by faint gravitational currents and the slow expansion of the universe itself. Occasionally, particles meet. Occasionally, they part. Nothing insists. Nothing resists. Motion happens because it can, not because it must. Time continues, but it feels almost weightless. Without frequent events to mark it, time becomes smooth, like an unbroken surface of still water. There are no sharp edges between moments. One blends into the next, so seamlessly that separation becomes unnecessary. Past, present, and future soften into a single, continuous now. This is where the idea of waiting disappears. And here, resting in your own night, you may feel something similar beginning to happen. The sense of waiting for sleep fades. You are no longer trying to arrive anywhere. Awareness loosens its grip on sequence. Thoughts no longer line up one after another. They dissolve before they can form chains. The universe does not measure itself anymore. There is nothing left to compare. No younger era, no brighter time. Only what is, continuing gently, because existence itself has momentum. A calm, residual movement that does not require fuel. In this quiet cosmos, even the smallest fluctuations feel meaningful. A particle drifting slightly closer to another, a subtle vibration passing through empty space. These are not beginnings of something larger. They are simply expressions of presence, proof that being continues, even when becoming has ended. The sun, long forgotten as an individual star, still contributes to this subtle motion. Its matter, its gravity, its long history of interactions are woven invisibly into the universe's structure. Nothing that ever existed has truly left. It has only spread thin, becoming part of everything else. Let this idea settle into you gently. You do not need to hold yourself together tightly. You do not need to maintain a clear sense of self right now. Just as the sun's identity softened over time, you are allowed to soften into sleep, into rest, into a state where effort is unnecessary. Your breathing now is quiet and automatic. The body knows exactly how to continue, without guidance. Muscles have released their last instructions. The mind no longer needs to monitor anything. You are drifting, supported by processes far older and wiser than conscious thought. If images appear, They are vague and distant. If sounds reach you, they are muffled, as though heard through deep water. Nothing demands interpretation. Nothing needs response. The universe at this stage does not hurry, and neither do you. There is no forward, no backward, only a gentle suspension, a sense of floating in a vast, calm field where nothing presses in and nothing pulls away. This is not emptiness. It is spaciousness. It is rest without contrast. Stay here. Let the idea of direction dissolve completely. Let the need for progress fade. You are allowed to drift without purpose, without destination, without even awareness of drifting. The universe is doing the same. In this far-reaching quiet, one of the last human ideas to fade is urgency. Urgency depends on contrast, before and after, not yet and too late. But in the deep future of the universe, those contrasts lose their sharpness. Nothing is about to happen, and nothing has just happened. There is only continuation, smooth and uninterrupted. The sun's journey, once marked by distinct phases and transformations, now exists only as a faint influence woven into the background of everything else. Its mass, long since redistributed, contributes subtly to the gravitational texture of space. Its energy, once brilliant and concentrated, has long since diffused, becoming indistinguishable from the quiet thermal glow that fills the cosmos. The sun no longer stands out, and that, somehow, is peaceful. In this era, the universe does not feel unfinished. It feels complete, in a way that does not require attention. There are no deadlines written into physics, no countdowns embedded in matter. The universe is content to persist without expectation, and that contentment spreads through everything within it. Here, even time relaxes its posture. Moments no longer stack neatly. There is no pressure to move from one state to another. Change still occurs, but it is so slow, so subtle, that it feels more like texture than motion. A particle drifts slightly. A field fluctuates faintly. Space expands just a little more. These are not events to track. They are background conditions, like the hum of silence itself. As you rest now, your mind may begin to mirror this state. The sense of needing to follow the story loosens. You are no longer waiting for the next idea or image. Awareness floats, unanchored, content to exist without direction. This is not losing focus. It is releasing the need for focus. Urgency leaves the body first. Muscles soften further, as if gravity has increased slightly, drawing you more deeply into the surface beneath you. The jaw unclenches without instruction. The forehead smooths. Even the small muscles around the eyes let go, allowing darkness to feel complete rather than empty. The nervous system shifts into its most ancient mode: rest, repair, quiet observation without reaction. This state predates thought. It belongs to life itself, not to identity. You are not doing this. It is happening because it always has. The universe understands this state intimately. After all, it has spent far more time resting than erupting. Stars shine for a while, yes, but most of cosmic history is dark, calm, and slow. The dramatic moments are brief highlights in an otherwise gentle existence. The sunset's bright life was one such highlight. Its long, steady burning once felt central, important, defining. But now, in the deep future, its brightness is simply one memory among countless others, not erased, just no longer emphasized. The universe does not cling to its brightest moments. It allows them to fade naturally, trusting that what remains is enough. This trust is something you can borrow now. You do not need to hold on to wakefulness. You do not need to preserve clarity. You do not need to remain aware. Awareness is allowed to dim, just as starlight does, without consequence. If thoughts appear, they are soft and unfinished. They do not insist on being completed. They drift away midway, dissolving back into quiet. This is not distraction. It is the natural behavior of a mind entering deep rest. Breathing continues, slow and effortless. Each breath feels less like an action and more like a background rhythm, something happening on its own, just as gravity continues on its own, just as space continues to expand without instruction. The sun's future teaches that nothing terrible happens when energy disperses, nothing breaks when intensity fades. There is dignity in quiet persistence, in gentle continuation, in allowing things to become less concentrated and more evenly spread. Urgency dissolves because it is no longer needed. There is no moment to catch, no insight to grasp, no ending to prepare for, only this soft, wide calm. And within it, you are perfectly placed. Now, the journey reaches a place where even movement feels optional. The universe has done its great work. Stars have lived their lives. Galaxies have stretched and thinned. Energy has spread evenly, like warmth dissipating through a vast open space. What remains is not emptiness, but a deep, settled calm, a condition where nothing needs to assert itself anymore. The sun, once a brilliant center of light and gravity, is now only a whisper within this immense stillness. Its history is no longer a sequence of events, but a gentle influence folded into the structure of the cosmos. The forces it once generated, heat, radiation, stellar winds, have long since blended into the background. There is no boundary where the sun ends and the universe begins. Everything is continuous now. In this long quiet, even gravity seems softer. It still operates, still shapes motion, but without drama. Objects drift in wide arcs. Distances stretch. Encounters become rare. The universe feels spacious beyond any need to fill it. Silence is not imposed. It is simply the natural state when nothing presses to be heard. This settling is not sadness. It is relief. For most of cosmic history, the universe has been learning how to relax. The early eras were dense, energetic, chaotic. Over time, expansion created room. Stars burned, releasing energy outward. Structure gave way to openness. And now, at the far end of that unfolding, there is finally enough space for everything to rest. As you lie here, you may notice a similar settling happening within you. The body feels heavier, more anchored. The bed or surface beneath you feels supportive, reliable, as if it has always been there waiting for this moment. There is no urge to adjust or shift. Stillness feels comfortable rather than restrictive. Thoughts arrive less frequently now. When they do, they are vague, more like impressions than ideas. They pass through without pulling you along. You do not follow them. You do not resist them. You let them move the way distant objects move in space, slowly, quietly, without consequence. The sun's long future offers a simple lesson here. After enough time, everything that can be released is released. What remains is essential, stable, untroubled. In the same way, your mind is letting go of what it does not need to carry into sleep. Worries loosen, plans fade, even curiosity grows tired. This is not forgetting. It is trust. Trust that the universe continues without supervision. Trust that your body knows how to sleep. Trust that nothing important will be lost in rest. Breathing is now so gentle that it feels almost like stillness. Each inhale arrives on its own. Each exhale leaves without effort. There is no rhythm to follow, no pace to maintain. Life is simply continuing quietly, the way it has for billions of years. In this settled state, the future no longer feels vast or intimidating. It feels distant in a comforting way, like a horizon you do not need to reach. The sun's story has shown that even the largest, brightest things eventually find a peaceful resting place. And so can you. Nothing more is required tonight. You are not waiting for sleep. You are already inside it. Awareness dims further, becoming diffuse, like light scattered through fog. There is no clear center anymore, just softness, just calm, just the quiet persistence of being. The universe has settled, the sun has settled, and now you are settling too. At the very end of the sun's long story, beyond light and fire, beyond motion that feels meaningful, there is rest, not as an absence, but as a condition that is finally spread everywhere. The universe no longer contrasts activity with stillness. It no longer distinguishes between before and after. It simply exists, evenly, quietly, without urgency. The sun, whose life once shaped days and seasons, whose gravity once organized worlds, is now fully absorbed into this calm. Its matter is dispersed. Its energy is diffused. Its influence is no longer concentrated in one place or one moment. And yet, nothing about it has been wasted. Everything it ever was has become part of what everything else is. This is the universe Cest's final kindness. There is no punishment for burning brightly. There is no cost for shining. There is no regret for fading. Stars are not expected to persist forever. They are allowed to complete themselves. The sun's long journey, from collapse to ignition, from stability to expansion, from brilliance to quiet, was never a march toward loss. It was a movement toward balance. In this final state, balance is everywhere. Energy has spread as far as it can spread. Temperature differences have softened. Motion continues, but without direction. Nothing is building. Nothing is breaking down. The universe has reached a condition where rest is no longer temporary. It is the default. And now, gently, you can feel how closely this mirrors the place your own awareness has reached. Your body is no longer preparing for anything. Muscles have released their last instructions. The nervous system has settled into its deepest, most ancient rhythm. There is no alertness left to maintain, no boundary left to guard. Sleep has already taken you. Not suddenly, but gradually, the way the universe itself cooled without resistance. The sunset's future teaches one final truth, that rest is not something earned after effort, but something inevitable after enough time. You do not need to deserve sleep. You do not need to arrive at it correctly. You do not need to remain present for it to work. Just as the universe continues without observation, your body continues without awareness. Cells repair, systems rebalance, memory softens, consciousness loosens its hold, confident that it will return when needed. There is no danger in letting go this far. Nothing essential disappears in sleep. Nothing important is lost in darkness. The sun did not vanish when its light faded, and you do not vanish when thought dissolves. You are simply resting in the most natural way possible, aligned with gravity, with time, with the deep structure of reality itself. There is nowhere left to travel, nothing left to explain, nothing left to imagine. Only this quiet, steady continuation, shared by stars, by space, by you. Thank you for resting here. Thank you for letting the universe move at its own pace. Thank you for allowing yourself to slow down. The sun's journey continues far beyond words, far beyond memory, but you do not need to follow it anymore. Tonight, it is enough to know that everything bright eventually finds peace, and that peace is gentle. Now the story fades completely. The voice steps back, and silence takes over. Sleep peacefully.